Castello Lake Speed, and we're going to do a hidden horsepower live. And I am super excited about this one, Lake, because
this is all new territory for us right here.
Relatively new. I mean, I spent some time in front of the television, and I know the phenomenon that is Street Outlaws. We got Dominator, a.k.a. Joe Woods, his daughter Jolie, who we know as the machinist out there in the machine
running EM45 like a pro.
Touching buttons, and the great stat was that she hadn't even seen the machine until today.
I haven't seen it until this morning, yeah.
Was that awesome to run that thing, or what?
Oh, it was an experience. I never thought it would be able to do something like this. I have seen machine shops and I've been in them, but I've never been able to touch things and experience them and really see how everything works. So it was an awesome experience.
She says, you got me beaten in the machine shop already. And Joe, you know, like the show is a phenomenon. To be, a car guy. I know your background a little bit. You got your first car, I think it was like a 56 Chevy or something.
Yeah.
13, you're a welder, you're a car guy, you do it with your hands. To be able to be a part of something that is, frankly, bigger than cars and bigger than drag racing. It's a cultural phenomenon. What's that like?
To tell you that it's anything other than life-changing would be an absolute lie. It has 100% changed everything that we do. It's, well, you know, the drag racing world, when you make that first pass in your car, if you're a racer, you're hooked, and you can't stop. And that's exactly where we're at. And it's been the best experience I've had to date. It's to be able to race all year long, multiple different platforms. Yeah, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
And how long you been doing it?
With Street Outlaws?
Yeah.
Since the very first episode. So what has that been, 10 years? 8 years, 10 years, something like that?
That's OG.
That is. That's awesome.
We just finished filming season 16 of the 405 show.
Wow.
So 5 seasons of No Prep Kings, 16 seasons of In the Street.
Yeah, you been there for all that?
I have. It started when I was in first grade, and now I'm a sophomore in high school, so it's pretty much just been my entire life.
Right.
That's all.
So the thing is, she knows more by osmosis than a lot of people know, because I was telling you earlier, my dad was a NASCAR driver, so I grew up around racing my whole life, and I didn't realize until I was in my mid-20s, which you're way ahead of this game by now, but she's a girl, she's smarter than us men, you know, that how much I knew that I didn't even know that I knew.
Yeah.
Just because you're around it, and it's cool. It's great to see you here running the machine. So how was Ryan teaching you? Did he do a pretty good job?
Yeah, Ryan, excellent teacher. He made sure I understood everything. I asked questions. He explained them. It was really great. He made sure I understood everything. So.
And you say you run the valves for your dad?
I do. I check the valve train. I pull the spark plugs out. I pretty much do most of the motor maintenance after passes.
Everything but the bottom end.
That's great.
That's awesome. You're reading plugs and everything too, so you guys send them out to Ben school. You probably teach them how to read the spark plugs. So you're running turbo stuff, you say.
Yep.
You went from nitrous to turbo stuff.
Yep.
So what was the reason for that change? And I guess there's always pros and cons to everything.
The reason was money.
Okay.
We needed to go faster, and to go as fast as we needed to go back then, we needed to be 750-inch engine. They were $30,000 used, and then you had to rebuild it. I took my 632, I spent 10 grand, and we converted it to a turbo motor.
And that got you the speed you needed.
Man, we haven't looked back since.
So what do we run for fuel? I'm curious. We're going to know
What's your oil? What's
hang in there, folks.
Yeah. We, if we don't cheat,
is there such a thing? Like,
okay, well,
there are rules in Street Outlaws.
there's rules, and so in the street there's not. There are no rules. No Prep Kings, we have to run methanol. The nitrous cars don't. They don't have to run methanol. We are M1 only is what we're allowed to run.
Okay.
So interpretation of rules,
of course,
says you cannot put anything in your methanol.
Okay.
No propylene, no nitro, hydrazine, nothing.
In the methanol.
Doesn't say you can't put that in race gas.
Wow. That's awesome.
We're not yet.
Right.
That's a learning curve that, that's a
Big tuning difference.
punishment of
because
parts
that's
until you
all
figure out
way
what you're
easier
doing.
to tune than
Potential for catastrophic failure.
Oh, 100. It's 100%
Yes.
guaranteed catastrophic failure. So
Awesome.
for what we're doing, we're on M1.
Yeah.
So
Well, part of the deal, and obviously, Jolie, I want to know like your future plans. And we have seen the children of racers end up as racers, right? So I would imagine you got plans to drive all of that. Well, is that true?
Ultimately, that's the plan.
How does Mom feel about that?
She doesn't really get it, Joey.
I love it.
Mom's on board with it too. I mean, I don't really remember growing up around anything other than race cars. I mean, I would love to drive one day, and if I don't get to drive or something happens, then machining, welding, like just pretty much anything in the mechanic field.
Because Joe, that's your trade, welder, master welder.
yeah.
We're talking about the machining deal. Like, there's another thing. Like, not only is it a great trade, it's great to do, but we need that. We need
Yeah,
people who are qualified to do that.
That's the. I am not kicking education in any way, shape, or form. But the one thing that our country as a society has done is pushed it to you have to go to college. We need bricklayers. We need welders. We need carpenters. I mean, there's a ton of. That's not in our industry. That's just what we need as a whole.
You have to have a successful country. You can't have everybody pushing a piece of paper around.
That's right.
No, I don't mean that in a disrespectful way.
No,
you need people who can do things with their hands.
The body
Absolutely.
can't just be hands.
Well,
You need eyes, you need ears, you need feet, you need all the things to make the whole thing go. And like I said, the economy as a whole, the world as a whole, needs all the different trades, not just certain ones.
That's a fact. Every a prime example. It doesn't matter. You can pick anything that's on this table. There was a truck driver involved in every bit of it.
Every bit of it.
Absolutely.
There was an engineer involved in every bit of it. There was a guy that boxed those. I mean, we need all facets of.
And respect to all of them.
100%.
I think that's part of our thing. I think in racing, like, there is no job, you think about, dirty job. There's no job that should be disrespected. If a person gets up early and they go to work and they put their everything into it and they go home with like an honest day's work, like, that's it. That's honorable and necessary.
Yeah. One of my enjoyments and relaxations is sweeping the floor.
I believe it.
I mean, I can't tell you why. It's just one of those. I enjoy sweeping the floor.
So you've been out there. I get it. I do the mop thing every once in a while. It's just because it's just automatic, right? You lose yourself in a mundane task.
Yep.
I want to go back to the beginning when this thing was happening, and you're like, "Yeah, I'll be on a show." You know what? Like, what are you doing? What do I have to do? What's going on? Who's where? Where do I show up? Can you tell me like your origin story?
So.
Because all right, so you're out there, you're already involved, you got a fast car.
Yeah. So we were found off of social media. That's where it all came from. They found 1320 videos of us racing in the street, and there was a website, a forum that everyone got on. The whole people from all across the country were on it, but if you were in the top 10, there was a backstory page to it that no one else could see. And I showed up to test one day. They asked me what I was doing with the car. I told them I built the car to race in the street, and I got a message on my phone that said, if you can see this page, keep your mouth shut, but open it up. And that's where it all started. The next thing I knew, we were racing. I don't know, we raced that way for 4 or 5 years, and then production seen us, and it was, we want to film this. We were in a Real Deal Cash Days in Dallas, Texas in the middle of December, and in the middle of January we were filming. People from California that were here had never seen snow, and it was bouncing off their head when we were doing our interviews. So, and it's been a whirlwind of race ever since. I mean, this last year was 9.5 months.
Well, and so
That's incredible. Of course, during the COVID thing, you guys went up to Wyoming or wherever that was.
Yeah,
and
Nebraska.
Nebraska did all that crazy
Out in the
stuff.
middle of nowhere. The only thing out there was trucks and sugar beets. That's the only. That it was a farming community area, and that's not true. There was, I mean, there was towns, but it was in the middle of nowhere. You drive for hours, and it's nothing but sugar beet fields, and then boom, there's this little town, and they thought it was the greatest thing in the world. The first day. By the end of that month, they were ready for us to leave.
Go.
I mean,
way too much traffic in that town.
Yeah.
A lot too much attention.
Yeah.
They weren't used to.
Yeah,
And now they probably want you back.
some of them do, And the truth is, when it comes to that side of it, I don't care if you're a racer or not. When you have to get up at 5:30 in the morning to go to work, and somebody's on the other side of town at 3 o'clock in the morning keeping you awake, you're not very happy
About
they're
that.
there.
Yeah.
So there's a reality of the other side of it.
Yeah.
And you have to understand and you have to respect their understanding and their viewpoint as well.
Of course.
So,
Yeah, well, it's respect, and we find that with the tracks and all. I want to know a little bit about, it's got to be a bit of a grind, right? Like there's a production schedule. Now that you guys are off the street, and there's a production schedule, and you got to make it.
Yeah.
Except sometimes you need a part. We were talking supply chain. Oh, we got to wait this long for this part. What happens when those two things collide? Like, you got to be out there, you got to have a car, you probably signed an agreement that says you're going to race, you're going to be on the show, it's a production, but you spin a bearing or something like that. How does that work out? And I would imagine that's probably your biggest stress.
So they don't own us in the aspect of I have to be at these.
Okay.
Where I lose from that deal is if I'm at number 12 in points and I don't show up for 3 races, I'm going to be at like number 25 in points. When you hit a certain level, then you have to do the race your way in stuff. So everything, it's detrimental that you stay in the top half of the field where you're not having to race your way in. But with the lack of parts, you just miss races. If you don't have enough parts, you're missing races. When we changed to the Hemi last year, we missed the first 4 races changing the car over to accommodate the Hemi. And I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. I thought drive shaft curve, we'll make this work, we'll just go faster from there. And the whole entire car wanted to be different. Where the Hemi made power and how it made power changed gear ratios in the transmission and the rear end, the tires, wheelie bars, everything changed. And we struggled all year long, and we stayed at the bottom of the field because of race your way in. And you hit a point where in the parts side of it, I had my rods on order for a year.
Wow.
I mean, I had hit the point where I had 2 more passes, and at the end of those 2 passes, I wasn't going to be racing if I didn't get rods. So, and it's not that they were doing anything wrong. The entire world is facing that problem right now, But
Right, exactly. It's just a challenge.
it's I mean, every thing that we deal with, from groceries to food and race car parts, it's all the same.
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's tough. You're trying to order enough parts for this year. You're trying to order enough parts for next year, because you might not get them in time. So you've got to look far enough ahead to order for 2 years worth, hoping that you stay on top of the game.
You know what I'm hearing, Joe?
What?
These people are real racers that race like everybody else.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
people think y'all are a TV show, right? I'm sure you
Yeah.
get that all the time, right?
We
That
do.
It's like, oh, it's a TV show, it's wrestling, it's all that kind of stuff. And it's like, no, what I'm hearing and seeing is this is real racing that just happens to be on the TV.
Yeah.
Of course, they edit it up and play up some of the things, like, but it's a TV show. But at the essence, at the core, y'all race just like anybody
racing-
else does.
We're racing for 40 grand. I mean, let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Not very many places do you race for $40,000
Right.
in one day.
No.
You know.
And so you got to bring your A
So
game. You got to be ready.
everyone is bringing their A game.
Mm-hmm.
So the goal this year is we're going to try. We are trying to put enough parts together where we have a whole complete engine, spare and ready to go. We still don't have that, but that's the goal. We've got a spare rotating. Well, we've got a spare short block now, and we're waiting on valve train pieces to be able to put 2 engines together.
Yeah.
So hopefully we don't need it.
Yeah.
But you race different when you have a spare sitting there.
Absolutely, right?
Right now we're racing where we got to make all 40 passes with these rods. We don't have another set of rods. If we miss the tune-up and we tear it up, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Right?
You got to play safe.
You throw a Band-Aid in it and the Band-Aid comes apart, then you're replacing a whole engine.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't get to race the same when you're racing for longevity versus racing for every ounce of power right now.
Right. You're running a schedule. You have a schedule. And to me, that's interesting because you started out as kind of an underground street racing thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious about that because you transition, like I've got the NHRA logo. I work for those guys. The whole mission is to hey guys, get off the street and come to a track,
100%.
Which is why I really dig the No Prep Kings thing.
Yep.
Because it's like, all right, we're not outlaws. We're racers. We're out here racing. There's an ambulance. It's all that stuff. I really appreciated that. And I think that's part of the recent big success, like going to the next level, right? Because it's just a mainstream thing. But at the same time, you got to go down the track. You've got to make an appearance. You got to be there. It's a show. You got to be involved. You got to do a good showing. Like all of these factors coming in. It's not just a race. It is entertainment. It's a character. You mentioned wrestling. He's a character, right? He's got fans. You got fans. People are recognizing you in grocery stores. Like that had to be a lot to deal with over a short period, from racing out of sight to everybody knows who you are.
Yeah. I honestly, I tell people this often when they ask that question. I could not imagine what it would have been like to have been Elvis Presley or the Beatles. Mm-hmm. I understand why Michael Jackson had a compound. You can't go anywhere. I mean, you go anywhere, people know who you are.
Yeah.
And you have to embrace that, because the reality is, if you can't take 5 minutes to spend with them when they have questions, you shouldn't be doing what we're doing, because they are why we are getting to do what we do.
Absolutely. I mean, back to my dad's career, I remember in the mid 80s, we would, the summer swing, because during the school year I was in school, and during the summer I'd go with Dad racing. And we did, Michigan, Pocono, Daytona, Talladega, and all that. I remember we were at a restaurant in Pocono, and of course, my dad's there, Richard Petty's there, Bobby Allison's there, Darrell Waltrip's there. These are all the guys, right? Because there wasn't that many restaurants in Pocono back then, right? So half the field's in the restaurant. And, you go in there, and the fans who were there, they would watch, and they, on the way out, they might raise their hand, and if they came by, they weren't invasive.
Right.
And I don't mean to sound bad about it, right?
Yeah.
But I remember that was the way it was for several summers, and then people started coming up to them during dinner. And the next summer, no one was there. We went to the same restaurant the next summer, and I think we were the only ones in there, and it was like, oh, where'd everybody go? But that was part of it, is that at some point they became, Richard Petty, right? You is the Elvis Presley. He's like, you just can't go anywhere. And Richard's always great about it, but he's like, I just need to have some headspace. And
sure.
So that's when everybody got the motorhomes, and it became a whole different vibe. But then again, in the end, that cuts off that supply chain to your fan base, because now it is the quid pro quo.
Yeah.
That 5 minutes of your time is the reason why they watch, the reason why they buy the merchandise and do the stuff that makes everything else go. And it's tough.
Yeah, it is. The one thing that we appreciate from the RV side of the travel, financially, it's an even wash. Between the dually, you got to stop for meals, you got to get the motels, right? The RV, you can stock up at a grocery store. You don't spend near as much. You spend more in fuel. It literally is a financial even wash. What you gain is sleep.
Also not a lie.
When the wrenching is done, you walk 40 feet that way, you take a shower, you go to bed. With a truck and a trailer, you get everybody in the truck after you put all your stuff in the trailer, because you're no longer going to be there.
Right.
You drive across town, you get some dinner, you get in the motel, you get 4 people, 5 people in the showers.
You lost hours.
4 hours a night.
Yeah.
That's what you lose, is you lose 4 hours of sleep in the travel. What you gain is a relationship with fans.
Yeah.
So it's a complicated balance.
Oh, it is. And I don't think there's a right answer. It's tough for everybody and what you can do. What y'all are doing with the Street Outlaws reminds me a lot of what the World of Outlaws guys go through.
Absolutely.
Running 80, 90 races a year, same thing.
Yeah.
Tote her home. Sleep at the racetrack because they don't have any time because you
Right.
weren't finishing racing like you guys until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning a lot of times anyway.
Yep.
What are you going to go do? There's nowhere to eat. That time of day.
There's
most likely.
There's 2 stretches where we do 6 weekends back to back.
Wow.
And they are across the country. When I say across the country, I mean we went from Brainerd, Minnesota to Houston, Texas in 4 days. And race again. And if the car's broke, or a broken RV, if the car's broke, then you've got days worth of working on the car, and you don't have days because you spend 3 of it traveling, 4 of it traveling. So,
See, all this reminds me of like the old school barnstorming, match racing days, early days of drag racing. And that's why so many people have, I think, attached to it, because it's not corporate sponsor driven.
Right.
It's, guys hustling, guys and gals hustling to make runs and turn on win lights or get wins and get money. Let me ask you about this.
You got to love it to do that.
There's no doubt.
Obviously there's a lot of fame, there's things that come with it, but you got to love it to do that.
it is, you 100% are right. You have to have an extreme desire to want to continue doing this, or you won't continue doing this.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's extreme. It really is extreme.
So we were dynoing my dad's engine for part of this whole project on Tuesday, and we got him over there. Dad's 74 years old. He'd been retired from NASCAR since 1998. And to see the emotion in his eyes, to hear that engine running, it was one of his old NASCAR engines, and see the power it made and everything, he was like, wow. I mean, it's one of those little moments, right, that tells you got to want it and love it at a level that if you don't want it or love it, you don't really understand. You can like it, you can think it's cool, but that doesn't cut the mustard.
Right. There is a difference between you're going to the track this month once, and if the car's still alive, you'll go maybe next month. But then if it's broke, it sits in the corner for 3 months until you get the time to go work on it. We don't have that luxury. We do. I can quit.
Yeah, you can quit.
Right.
You can
But
quit.
you choose not to.
Why would you give up that opportunity?
I'm not a quitter.
Right.
Nobody quits. So,
Yeah, and there's probably thousands of racers that feel like that they could do a better job than you're doing, right? They just don't have the opportunity. And
Absolutely.
Do you run into that all the
Just look
time?
at the
Like, hey,
comments on
man,
Facebook.
so as a matter of fact, I was talking to a guy at a gas station 4 or 5 days ago about that very thing, and he made the comment, it must be nice to be getting paid that good to go racing. And I looked at him and I said, I'm gonna give you both sides of the coin, okay? I don't have a $600,000 toter. I don't have a $300,000 stacker trailer. I don't have 3 engines. I don't have 2 cars. There's a lot I don't have. That's the looking at the grass is always greener, right? Mm-hmm. The reality is, on the better side of it, I do have a 3-second car. I do have an enclosed trailer. I do have an RV to get there, and I have a family that wants to go. Mm-hmm. So, am I blessed? 100% I am.
Yeah, you're living an experience. Your daughter is with you. The family that races
fantastic.
together stays together.
Absolutely.
All right, so what about, because we're running out of time, but I got a couple more questions. Performance-wise, okay, the guys that win, just like all racing, it's kind of a narrow group, like a pyramid.
Yep.
What are you doing to get
To
up
go
there?
faster?
To get up there, to go faster. How much does it take? What can you do? What, just like all racing, like it comes down to budget, it comes down to brain power. Who you're working with. Like, are you actively trying to raise your level and go out there and at the highest levels and win as much as possible?
Absolutely. If you are not preparing for going faster, you are going. If you are not trying to be number 1 and you are at number 10, you're going to be at number 20. Because the 10 below you are doing everything they can to be number 1. Mm-hmm. So we are actually, right this minute, we are waiting on the rules because the weight rules are a big deal. Right now with the turbo application, I run 88 millimeter turbos. I have to weigh 2,800 pounds. If I had a roots blower on the car, I only had to weigh 2,550 pounds. If it was a nitrous car, I only had to weigh 2,500 pounds. I'm not doing a nitrous thing because it's $100,000 engine swap and a lot goes on that I don't financially have. So with our program, we are 100% gearing towards the options of taking weight out of the car. I've got a list of carbon fiber, I've got a list of titanium, I've got a list of aluminum that I can change to make the car lighter if we go the direction of going lighter for a roots blower deal. And I have a list of carbon fiber, titanium, and engine location to stay with the turbo deal to make the car work better. We are in the middle of cutting the entire back half out of the car to fit the big 36-inch tire on it because the tire is a total game changer. Right now we're racing on a 34.515 and we're burning the paint on the sail panels. I can't get it any wider without raising the car up, and you know what happens when you raise the car up.
You go slower.
That's what you do.
We've got to fit a 36-inch tire. One race was won all of last year with anything other than a 36-inch tire.
Right, so you know what you need to do.
100%.
Yeah, like you need some tire.
Exactly.
That.
That's it.
I could save you some money on titanium.
You can?
Yeah, put her in the car.
That is an absolute fact.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I'm kidding. But
no, but you're right. That is, I mean.
You shouldn't be.
Look, you're traveling up and down the road all day long. You're drinking a lot of sugar, and I live on Mountain Dew and candy bars, and I shouldn't, but it's the sugar that keeps you going
I
at
know,
4 o'clock in the morning when you're trying to get there.
Totally understand. All right, we're running on time. They're giving us the wrap, but I got. If you got a final question, you ask.
No, you
a final
keep on
question.
going. You're good.
No, I just if there's a thought, a misconception, something out there, we're talking to the world, fans, the industry. There are a lot of misconceptions about this show. There are a lot of things that people think that are true or not true. Or,
Yeah.
So if there's something that's top of your mind, I want to just going to give you the floor so that you can present. Like, what do you think?
The biggest misconception, honestly, is the fact that because it's on TV, all the parts are handed to us, and we make a ton of money doing this. The real simple explanation for that is, if I had a ton of money getting thrown my way, I wouldn't be using a 2006 model dually and a 36-foot trailer. My RV would not be a 2002 model RV, right?
Right.
So grass is always greener on the other side. I'm not going to say that it's not. Not everybody makes the money that they
Some
think
people
that we
do.
do.
Yeah.
The racing is as real as it gets. The struggle is as real as it gets. Nothing in it is fake. The reality is, come to a show and watch it, because you'll see firsthand how intense it gets. And the other thing is, thanks to all the fans, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. No one in NHRA, Street Outlaws, it doesn't matter. If you don't have fans, you don't have racing.
Right.
There's going to be 10 of us that are doing this at a track because we love doing it, but it wouldn't be what it is today.
Right.
Right?
Fans make it.
The fans make it.
Well, I think too, like you said, it is real, it's passionate, and it's fun. Our mutual friend Kevin Studecker at Total Seal is
Yeah.
the one that got me hooked on this stuff. Right?
Yeah.
When I stay at Kevin's house when I'm out in Arizona, and he watches it, and I started watching it, and he went to one of the No Prep Kings events down in Tucson, and he's like, "Man, this is incredible."
Kevin has a Chevelle station wagon that he does drag week with.
Yes, he
He and I
does.
have had the long conversation.
Wagon of Doom.
Yes, we've had a long conversation about weight, and I gave him a list of like 40 things where he could cut weight out of the car, but you got to make it by money. You know, my carbon fiber list is $13,000 worth of stuff.
Yikes.
We're not going to talk about the titanium list.
Sorry, Jimmy. But listen, thank you for what you do. Thanks for joining us on Hidden
Absolutely.
Horsepower. And, as a person who loves drag racing, and obviously I work for NHRA, I'm a bracket racer, right? Like, going fast isn't necessarily my thing, but I would love to. It's just about affordability. You can do what you can afford to do, and that's what I've always done.
100%.
But you guys with the program have put drag racing, the concept of a couple of cars and two groups of people, you and your guys versus me and my guys. We're going to go from here to there and see who gets there first. That concept was put in front of people who never would have thought that they would have enjoyed it, and now they do. And so I would hope that then they'll come look at us, and they'll go to their local track, and they'll support their local track and watch their friends and neighbors go out there and race. And it's so good for drag racing.
100%.
So thank you for what you do. Thanks for joining us on Hidden Horsepower, and appreciate you coming out to the Engine Performance Expo.
No, thank y'all very much.
How long till Jolie's in the car?
She's in the car actually every weekend. She goes through the vibe train. She does the fire up and the warm up. How long before she's drag racing the car? I don't know. I'm not going to tell her no. I know she wants to race. We are obviously not going to just throw her in a 3-second car.
So you're saying there's a chance?
There is one. There's 100% a chance. There will be a point in time when I'm standing behind the car, tuning the car and watching the car, and
feeling very nervous.
100%. Yeah.
I say this: as comfortable as she was at that machine, if she doesn't like driving the car, she'll be just fine operating machines. And I'm pretty sure Ed and those guys will sign her up.
She was 12, 13 years old driving the dirt roads and stops on the concrete bridge, and my wife looks at her like, "What's wrong?" Instant burnout machine. So
there you go. There you go.
It's in her blood.
It's good practice.
That's it. Guys, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Hidden Horsepower from the Engine Performance Expo.
What a day, what a day, what a day. Yeah, my brain is swollen. I've learned so much today. They told us, don't start cars. We are not going to listen.